First, I want to tell you a story. It's going to work now. I guess you can hear me. I'm going to talk about illness first, but it's just brief. I had the toughest time of my life. First, I got angina pectoris, and then arteriosclerosis. Just as I was recovering from these, I got tuberculosis, double pneumonia, and phthisis, whatever that is. I've not heard of that. But they gave me hypodermics. Appendicitis was followed by tonsillectomy. These gave way to aphasia and hypertrophic cirrhosis. I completely lost my memory for a while. I know I had diabetes, acute indigestion, besides gastritis, rheumatism, lumbago, and neuritis. I don't know how I pulled through it. It was the hardest spelling test I ever had. I've always heard it's best to begin with something that people can remember. That list of words, I don't think you can remember that, but at any rate, we have finished with Veterans Day. I hope everyone had a wonderful Veterans Day and celebrated adequately, because Veterans Day is important, and veterans are so very important in our world. That's a wonderful day to me, and celebrating veterans is part of my life. If you were to, and then we're going from then, Thanksgiving. Did everybody have a good Thanksgiving? Okay, good. If we were to ask someone in their 80s, moving on to Christmas, what they thought we needed for Christmas, they might say, a couple of naps a day. That's what Les's doctor said a couple of years ago when he found out that he was getting busier than he had been before. He said, what are you doing getting busy? He said, you need to be taking a couple of naps a day. So if we ask somebody in their 70s what they needed for Christmas, they might say, well, one nap might do it, but take a little longer one. Now, if we ask somebody that's in their teens what they wanted for Christmas, they might say, a car. That would do, right? That would do for somebody in their teens. But if we ask anyone in the Middle East, especially now, and most people in the world, including myself, and I'm sure probably most of you, what the world needs for Christmas, we might say peace. Peace. So I'm going to talk about peace today. Many of us have purchased Christmas cards that reflect that wish all through the years. And many of us have wished for peace all through World War I, World War II, if we were alive. World War II was a significant turning point for many of the world's people. Most of my uncles were in World War II, and I know the most about Dick, who was one of my uncles, and a lot of us don't know much about what the people do in service because they come back and they just don't talk about it. Has anybody had many people talk about the service? Most of them don't. And one of the things that I learned when we were planning his funeral service was the fact that he was in the Merchant Marines. And the Merchant Marines took supplies to bases all over the world, clear across the ocean, all over, without any security, without anybody guarding them or taking care of them, because they weren't the objects. They were just taking supplies here and there. To all the bases in the world without any protection. I want to mention, too, that in World War II, when the World War II broke out, my sister was about 1.5 years old. My father was a physician, and my father decided he wanted to be a ship doctor. And so he went back east to sign up to be a ship doctor, and my mother went to St. Louis to what was it then, I believe, and I wasn't born yet, so I don't remember this personally, but I believe it was called Curtiss-Wright at that time. A huge plant that became Boeing later, but that built airplanes for the war. And my mother went to St. Louis. My aunt, who was my mother's best friend in college and married my mother's older brother, took care of my sister, and my mother went to work at Curtiss-Wright, and she would walk around on sock feet in these enormous buildings with huge sheets of metal, stacks of them. I don't know how many sheets of metal there were in a stack, but they were the thickness of a fuselage or a wing metal on an airplane. And she would carry with her a formula for and draw fuselages and plane wings on these enormous sheets of metal, and somebody else would come along a little bit later and cut down through each of those sheets of metal. And then, of course, they were taken in some way or other, although I imagine they were pretty big and pretty heavy, but they were taken at some point to be riveted into airplanes. And so both of them had a part for a little while. The unfortunate part for my father was that he didn't pass the physical. Physician who doesn't pass a physical is a little bit funny to me, although he's been gone for several years. But when he was sent back home because he didn't pass the physical, he had been a sickly child most of his childhood, and he had worked all night and gone to school daytime in order to become a physician. And so all of that may have affected his health. But there was, in his life, somebody who, in our lifetime, who this book is about, who became Peace. That was the first name she took in 1953. She became Peace Pilgrim, first name, last name, Peace Pilgrim. And her friends referred to her as Peace when they talked to her. She was a woman whose life was very different. Her choices had a profound impact on many people in her world at the time. And I would like to introduce her to you if you have no knowledge of her. Has anybody ever heard of Peace Pilgrim? She passed away, or she died, was hit in a head-on collision a day after leaving our church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1981, I believe it was. And she came there and spoke to us, and then accepted a ride to Chicago for her next speaking engagement, as she did once in a while. But she walked with silver hair, wearing navy blue slacks, and you can see the front of the book that shows her picture walking along. She walked in navy blue slacks, a shirt, and a short tunic with pockets all around the bottom. And in the pockets were her worldly possessions. Her worldly possessions, no money at all. She didn't want and would not accept any money at all. But she had a toothbrush, she had a pen, she had a comb, and she had her unanswered mail with her. And that's all she had with her. And she walked. Her goal on the front of her tunic was the words Peace Pilgrim. On the back of the tunic, when she first started, said 25,000 miles for peace. Now, the 25,000 miles was accomplished in the first 2 or 3 years. But after she had walked the 25,000 miles, she kept zigzagging across this country, until 1981, from 1953 to 1981. For all those years, she was on her 7th trip across this country when her life was taken. And she had accepted a ride to Chicago from Milwaukee and had gone there, and somebody else has a phone that I'm not used to that phone because I've never had that ring, but I can tell when it rings, but it's not mine. It's somebody else's. But her tunic, she walked the 25,000 miles, and then she said this. She said, "I shall remain a wanderer until mankind has learned the way of peace, walking until I am given shelter, and fasting until I am given food." That was how she lived her life. That was her life. She had not a penny to her name, was not affiliated with any organization, would speak to anyone at any time, was interviewed by newspapers, and there are a few copies of those that I had copied from the very back of the book. There were some examples of some of the, of a few of the newspapers that were about her. And one of them, one of the half pages, is from Ted Hayes, who interviewed her the day before she died. And so part of that interview is on one of those posters, or one of those flyers out there. If you help yourself, you'll know a little bit more about Peace Pilgrim. She has been scheduled for schools, cottages, cities, newspapers, magazine articles, interviews in radio and television, and did that for those 17 or 18 years that she lived. Her message was simply, when enough of us find inner peace, our institutions will become more peaceful, and there will be no more occasion for war. Her message, as told in all of those arenas that I mentioned to you, is so much like Unity that I felt like it was really worth talking about today. Following her death, a couple of days after leaving our church in 1991, a number of her friends from throughout the country gathered in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to remember her, to share experiences with her, and to talk about her, what they wanted to do to remember her. A small group stayed in Santa Fe after the rest of them left to put together the book, that's this book, in her words. This book is all in her words, totally, from her 19 Peace Pilgrim newsletters, from private conversations, from excerpts from correspondence and talks taped by many people over the years, and thousands of news articles in addition to the other resources in the Peace Pilgrim Library at Swarthmore College. That's where most of the body of her materials are. One who captured her spirit said this of her untimely death: "The seeds of peace have been scattered well. It is the duty of all who have been touched by her to begin the harvest. It is the hope that her words and spirit will continue to inspire, and I know they will, all who heard her and came in contact with her. And we join with all in a circle of love to see that through." That was their statement from Santa Fe, New Mexico. They also made this statement about her, which I thought was quite interesting: "Free of earth, free as air, now you will travel everywhere." And that she does. That she does. This is the sentiment of 5 of Peace's many friends, on March 31st of 1982. It took that long to put that book together. Her spiritual growth and message include these steps. And I want to say a couple of other things about her personally. Her trip to inner peace was not generated by any religious background. She had no religious upbringing at all. The first time she looked inside a church was when she was 12 years old. And she happened to be walking by a Catholic church and saw the janitors inside cleaning the sanctuary. She did not go inside. The first time she was ever in a church was when she was 16 and attended a wedding. She said, though, about her beginning, she did not tell her age, she did not tell her original name, she did not tell where she was born. Interesting person. She said she had a very favorable beginning, poor on a small farm in the outskirts of a small town. She was thankful for that. Sounds like it's the beginning of my life as well, on the outskirts of a small town, but not on a farm. And she says she had a woods to play in and a creek to swim in. I did as well when I was little. And room to grow. She says that's what she feels every child needs, is room to grow. Room to grow. She says if they do not have room to grow, they are like little plants. Growing too close together, they become thin and sickly and do not obtain maximum growth. And that growth can be not only physical, but it can also be spiritual. So having the space and the time and the opportunity to grow spiritually is important for children as well as us. As she prepared for her work, she chose as her first rule, first things first. She says that aided her in creating order in her life, in setting priorities, and in getting her ready for an orderly life. There was no formal religion, I mentioned that. As a senior in high school, she began to make her search for God. Now, never that I know of, unless it's in those articles out there, it was not in this book, but never have I heard that what motivated her toward God, because she had no religious upbringing. But she began to make her search for God as a senior in high school. And she said preparations were the first thing that she needed to accomplish. The first kind of preparation she needed, she felt, and this is all on her own, without any instruction now, without any education, and without any religious upbringing or influence. So she really showed me that all people have in them the presence and the power of God. And they can all find it if they will but seek. She began her search walking with her dog in the woods. And she would sometimes call out to God. She says that first of all, you have to have discipline. And first of all, you have to have the right attitude toward life, the right attitude toward people, the right attitude toward everything in your life. Face life squarely, having a meaningful attitude toward life's challenges. And as Stephen Schwartz says in his book, problems are doors through which we walk to peace. If more of us believed that, we would be okay with our challenges and accept them as a step to the right direction toward peace. No problem comes to us that does not have a purpose, she says. That cannot contribute to your inner growth. Simply put, problems are opportunities in disguise. Have you ever thought about your problems that way? Anybody have a problem? You might take a look at it and ask it simply, what can I do to experience peace through you? Because it's there. The peace is there. Problems are doors through which we walk to peace. No problem comes to us that does not have a purpose in our life. And if we look back on our life, if we have enough of it to look back on, we will find that some of the greatest challenges in our lives have been some of the greatest blessings. And if we can't find that, then we need to look a little harder, because it's there. It's there. And that is reflected in the song that John sang a while ago. The second preparation is to bring our life in harmony with the laws that govern the universe. Now, how she knew what laws govern the universe as a senior in high school or as a young woman without any educational background at all in that direction, I have no idea, and I don't think she ever revealed. But that preparation is to become a part, is to become one with the laws of the universe and to obey them. Obedience, she says, helps us learn that evil can be overcome by good. Evil can be overcome by good. The third preparation is fulfilling a unique part in God's plan, and she believes everyone has a unique job. I call it a job because then it'll be taken more seriously. If you don't take a goal or a purpose in life seriously, then maybe you'll take a job seriously. Because your job in life is to manifest the good that is already in you. And the song reflects that. Third preparation, then, is fulfilling our unique part in God's plan. We do this by following God's guidance. How do we follow God's guidance? We have to stop and listen. We can't just do and do and do and do and do. We have to stop and listen. And meditation helps us do that. The fourth preparation is to simplify our life. Following this guidance to the T, she felt like she purified her body. And never again did she have the rest of her life so much as even a cold. She had unbounded energy and never was sick another day in her life. And that got her, that purifying her body led her to be sure that she had no habits like alcohol, tobacco, meat, caffeine, and ate mostly fruits and vegetables. That was her life. Small amounts of milk and cheese. That's what she lived on and walked on from 1953 to 1981, when her life was cut short. She also felt there were some purifications that were required of her. Firstly was the purification of the body, which she did very well. Secondly was the purification of thought. In Unity, what's one of the main things you hear over and over and over in a Unity church is you got to get right in your thoughts, because your thoughts create your world. Your thoughts create your life. And if you're not right in your thinking, you're not going to feel good about your life. Not going to feel happy. Not going to feel good about your life. The third purification is the purification for desire. And she felt that she outgrew superficial pleasures. In fact, this whole thing of acquiring inner peace, she said, is a product of maturation, that you mature into inner peace. You mature into understanding the laws of the universe. You mature into being willing to obey them. You mature into doing that. All of these things. Lastly, assisting in the purification is service to bring motives in line with her growth. Then there are the relinquishments that were necessary for inner peace, and the first, she said, is to give up self-will. Self-will. Anybody made a long list of what you'd like to have for Christmas? Maybe you don't really need all of that. Maybe peace, maybe doing something for peace would be the thing. Thirdly is the relinquishment of negative feelings. Boy, you hear that a lot in Unity, don't you? Got to get rid of that negativity. With these preparations and purifications and relinquishments, she felt that she had attained inner peace and wished to share that with the world, which is why in San Diego, California, she set on this pathway, starting back and forth across the world, across the country. Leroy Brownlow, in his selection on peace, says, the peacemaker has a reconstructed view of life which puts the time and talent of conflict to better cause. The challenges, conflicts, problems of our life, the peacemaker puts them to a better cause. He does more than put up the sword, he beats it into a plowshare. Anything biblical sound familiar here? He does more than lay aside the spear, he forges it into a pruning hook. That's what the peacemaker does. Matthew Arnold, from 1822 to 1888, writes, peace is what I seek, and public calm. Endless extinction of unhappy hates. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If we had an endless extinction of unhappy hates, wouldn't the world be a whole lot calmer? Wouldn't there be peace on earth? And in Hebrews 12:14, it says, follow peace with all men. Now, I would be remiss if I did not declare clearly as a woman that he and men, anywhere in literature and mostly in the Bible, means she and her also. I got to get that in. Or I wouldn't be true to my gender. My pronouns are all inclusive, as they should be with all of us. All of us. And so this Veterans Day we have celebrated, this Thanksgiving we have celebrated, and we're on our way to Christmas. I pray that this Christmas, that you can find and generate more peace in your life and realize it's already there. You just have to accept it, you have to realize it, and you have to live it.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone sitting here today. Good morning to everyone who is joining us on live stream. If anyone's present here today or viewing us for the first time, we welcome you and we hope we'll see you again soon. After service, if you're here in the sanctuary with us today, our ambassador Stella is in the back. She's there with a gold stole waving so nicely. She will be there with an information packet and a mug. She has been in Unity for many years and can answer any questions you're having about this church or Unity in general. Please check in on Facebook and tell your friends and family that you're here at Unity of Springfield. And then if you would, silence or turn off your phones. Today's flowers are provided by John Russ in celebration of Thanksgiving and giving thanks. They are beautiful. If you'll please join me in the mission statement together. Our mission is to encourage and inspire spiritual and personal growth by empowering each other to be authentically all that we came here to be. And let us speak together the affirmation for today's daily word. I call upon the peace of God and bless myself with tranquility. And our daily word. It can be tempting to look at tumultuous or troubling circumstances and in a state of agitation pray for peace. But peace doesn't come to me through an outside source. Nothing and no one can give it to me. Instead, I must claim the peace of God for myself. What a blessing that I can call upon divine peace whenever I feel troubled. At those moments, I take slow, deep breaths and envision tranquility. I feel it rising up, not just inside of me, but also all around me. I envision peace enveloping everyone. My feelings of disturbance vanish and harmony spreads. The peace I feel keeps flowing from me into the world. Its calming influence blesses all beings and the world. I give thanks for the opportunity to share my peace. The scripture for today is from Proverbs 3:17, together. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. And let us repeat the affirmation together. I call upon the peace of God and bless myself with tranquility. As we ring the prayer bowl, please hold. Let me ring the prayer bowl. Hang on. This is what happens when Sue and Dee go out of town. Please hold the following people in your prayerful thoughts for their highest and best. Mary, Patrick, Charlene, Lance, Les, Z, Riley, JD, Andy, Raymond, Tiffany, Janice, Ashley, Al, Nancy, Della, Lee, Gracie, John, Chris, Patty, Brett, Jane, Austin, Jennifer, Joshua, Leah, John, and anyone else that comes to your mind. Breathe in deeply and exhale. Breathe in as you connect with the God of your being, and exhale once more. Bring to mind the awareness that God is our source. God is always with us, blessing us, and expressing in us, as us, and through us. As we begin to relax and be fully present in this moment, bring your attention to the crown of your head, relaxing as you move down to your forehead, eyes, ears, lips, tongue, and jaw. Roll your neck and shoulders, releasing any remaining tension or tightness. Follow that relaxation as it flows down your arms to your elbows, your wrists, hands, and fingers. Feel and see the relaxation taking place in your body as you move down your spine into your lower back. Now relax your thighs, your knees, calves, ankles, feet, and toes. Take another deep breath, hold, and exhale. We pray for the highest and best for all who have been placed on our prayer list today by loved ones. For the highest and best experience of life, we also include ourselves, our families, friends, and neighbors. For everyone on earth, we affirm health and wellness, safety and security, abundance to support needs, desires, and dreams, loving relationships with family and friends, the guidance and inner peace we all seek, and spiritual transformation. We surround not only our spiritual community, but also our city, our state, our nation, all nations, with prayers for fairness and safety, happiness, joy, abundance, inclusivity. We visualize peace among all our country and in all countries. As we breathe deeply, we breathe in the recognition that we are all worthy of all the good we desire, and we are loved just the way we are. With infinite gratitude, we share our loving energy with our spiritual community, extending that out to the whole world and everyone in it. Unfaltering peace is our birthright. As we become centered, we allow connection to peace beyond all understanding. Resting in the silence, allow that peace to surround you in the silence. As we return our awareness to the present, we remember that peace is available to us always. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale. Our special music will now be Peace, a song by Anna Golden, sung by John Russ this morning.